Hello, this is Kristen Rowley for Instructional Technology Module 6. This is my reflection video. And we're talking about online learning at the K through 12 level. The first question is, do you think it's appropriate for students to complete online learning, and what parameters should be in place? So, I think that online learning absolutely has a valid purpose. I think there are excellent reasons to have students complete it. I think that it is most appropriate in high school. I know I tend to work with special ed kiddos, and because I work with special ed kiddos, they tend to not have the attention span or the self-starter type executive skills to be able to hang in there with a online program. A lot of the time they're not self-starters. They don't, actively seek out doing schoolwork. So the idea of them having to kind of propel themselves forward isn't necessarily something that's going to happen. It might work great for some elementary students, but that hasn't been my experience with the kiddos that I have personally seen. So that's just kind of my thought, is that in high school, I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful option, which is kind of brings me to question 2. Do you think every state should require students to complete an online course prior to high school graduation? So that, I think, is probably very valid. I would argue that that's probably more useful, that make it a requirement, because so many college classes now are online. Whole degree programs online here at FHSU, that's a thing. But also, a lot of jobs are remote now. So the ability to sit down in your own space and be able to propel yourself forward while working on something, particularly something that may or may not be interesting per se, is probably a wise thing to get people used to doing, because people are working from home a lot more. People are going to college from home a lot more. So this is a valid skill set that needs to be taught to students. So yes, I think it's absolutely valid and probably a really solid plan for high school students to have to complete some version of an online class. But I think it really depends. Should we introduce it in junior high? Should we introduce it in high school? I think that's pretty going to depend on the student quite a bit. And then, let's see. What did I learn most about the articles and videos and the Lawrence virtual school brochure? I was actually kind of, I watched one of the videos. I read all of the articles and but I watched one of the videos, and it was talking about how the teachers felt like they actually had more connection with their students because they were in communication with the parents a lot more. I found that very, very interesting. And I actually really liked that idea that this distance learning is fostering kind of an intentionality behind communication, which is really important when you teach. If you don't communicate well, your students aren't going to get what they need. The parents are going to be left in the dark. So I thought that was very interesting, and I thought it was very valid. I was also not aware that the Lawrence Virtual School had been around so long. I was unaware that it had gone back that far. I've known people that have used K-12 the Andover E-Academy for a dozen or so years. And then I was aware of Maze Virtual. The school that I teach at actually partnered with them 2 years ago, and their students did that virtual learning. There is also Bueller's Ad Astra program, and they're out of Bueller, which is out by Hutch. And my boys worked through their virtual school last year. So virtual learning has kind of been a thing, but also that has given me firsthand experience for question 1. My now 9-year-old did not like learning online. It was not something that he was very into. Those tools just didn't work for him, which is fine. We've found something else. But I think it's going to depend on the student, whether that's valid for those younger kiddos. I think once they're older, then it is completely valid and even should be mandatory there. But anyway, those are my thoughts on online virtual learning for this week. Have a good one, everyone.